Okay. So clearly it's a problem and it's trending downwards.
Whose problem is it?
That's a great question.
We've gotten this weird dynamic where as a citizen we drive around and there's that city truck or that state truck and we go, this is their problem.
Right.
It's their fault.
There's a lot of separation in responsibility and ownership.
So guess whose problem it is?
It's ours.
It's a taxpayer.
Yeah. I mean, how do you even begin to try to solve that and try to just change the direction of trending?
Good morning, Miles.
Good morning, Scott.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
What does pretty well mean?
Pretty well, pretty good. I don't know. It means I got good sleep and there's no immediate disaster in my life. So I'm grateful.
Okay, got it. All right, you got to help me because I didn't have a good night's sleep.
Oh, shoot.
I hate that. Me along. Well, welcome. You're we're entertaining you being my new co-host.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been working on the podcast from the beginning to some extent, but haven't really been on it. And now we're gonna see what that's like.
Yeah. Miles has been with Level Design Partners, Level Engineering for years now, and our marketing lead, and we were tossing around the idea of bringing in a non-engineer, non-architect, younger voice, asking different kinds of questions and really quizzing and having a different perspective. That would be maybe a more common perspective, right? Than just a group of engineers talking about what we already know. So hopefully it's more interesting, and your voice actually represents what the public would want to ask. So
yeah,
do you feel you're up to it?
I'm definitely up to it, and I've always been curious about engineering, architecture. I think in another life, I was probably one of those. So I've been in the, yes, I do marketing, but I've been in this world for 6-7 years now.
Yeah,
so
amazing.
By osmosis, right? I've kind of learned some things, and I think I'm not staring at engineering and architecture every day like an engineer architect would. And so I think, at least in my own experience, when you're looking at and working on something all the time, there's all these biases that you kind of forget what it looks like from the outside. And I think, and I hope that I'll be able to bring a little bit of a new perspective.
Oh, I'm sure of it.
Well, picking up from where we left off, we took a little bit of a break.
Yeah,
we did some work, and now we're back. We're all in, 2 feet into growing this podcast and making it awesome. So we have to do our history. We have to pick up where we left off, which is last time we talked about the 1620s. So now we're into the 30s.
Yeah, I think it's important to go through this chronological series of events on American infrastructure, the built environment, and understand how we got here today. Because if we don't have the history of it, it seems like just a bad idea. What we're doing today is just this bad idea. But it is so ingrained in how we make decisions, how we regulate, how we tax, how we fund. If you looked at it just through this immediate lens, you're going to go, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, right?
By this, you mean
infrastructure.
You mean like what we're doing today?
It's what we're doing today. We're not maintaining it. We're not teaching. Because we're not talking about it. We have this entitlement that our infrastructure is a given. That clean water, when you turn the tap on, it's going to be safe, right? And our rivers are going to be clean. Our cost of goods are going to be affordable. We just assume these things are given, but they're not. I don't know you've traveled a little bit. You've traveled a lot, actually.
Good amount, yeah.
Yeah, remember maybe some of your travels. How was the driving experience in
Oh
some of
my
these countries?
gosh. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I've been to India, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, and some other places, Italy, Europe. Um, my first thought when you ask that goes specifically to a time in India
okay.
where, I mean, it's one of my favorite places because it's so vibrant and you get kind of like the full spectrum of human existence, which means you get, amazing people, amazing, colorful culture, all of that amazing stuff. But you also get the other side, which is like some of the worst things I've seen in my life, some of the saddest, hardest things to look at. And and also just crazy infrastructure, like no rules, chaos,
Uh huh.
road. Like we had a driver one time and it was like the scariest ride of my
Experience.
life, just
Yeah. Right.
zooming past, head on with big trucks and not really paying attention to any rules. So it made me appreciate what we have here like nothing else.
What's it? What? So the fundamental difference. The fundamental difference is not only the regard for life, but second
Mm-hmm.
is funding. The primary difference between the two is funding. And so if you're going to if you're in business and you want to create something and then distribute to your customers or even the consumer, so let's go to like an Amazon. What if the infrastructure for Amazon delivery was the same as India? What would the cost of goods be in the convenience? But if it takes 10 days rather than 2 hours, what is the cost of that thing you just ordered from Amazon?
That is so interesting. The ripple out effect of
It's huge.
infrastructure. Yeah.
Your cost of goods and the money you'll spend on your goods will way outweigh, hey, let's spend some maintenance dollars for your infrastructure to make my goods affordable.
Wow. Yeah. Definitely makes me appreciate the kind of like the fundamentals of what we have here, because upon those fundamentals, you get all these other layers of things that work. Whereas in maybe another country, they wouldn't work like they do here.
They don't
and so
work.
then that affects price, that affects timing, that affects speed and quality, all of that stuff.
Yep. The American Society of Civil Engineers kind of does this infrastructure grading system, which is, I'm not a huge fan of it, but the engineering community is trying to communicate to the public things that they can get their arms around, so we can all get around grades from school, right? So American Society of Civil Engineers, okay, let's just grade our infrastructure, and so it's kind of been in this C minus category, D category. So how do you feel about that?
So our infrastructure is at a C minus
D. Yep.
That's interesting because, yeah, I feel like that's something that we've always kind of had. We've had good, I would say, good infrastructure, at least compared to other countries. So
yeah, I mean, go back 4 decades, it was good.
Right. Okay. So
one lifetime, it's gone from good to
okay.
poor.
So that's scary. That's scary to me. That's worrisome because of the speed of decline and how maybe our priorities have shifted as a culture. You think, a lot of the people that maybe had more care for those things back then, right, have slowly phased, lifetime. Obviously, like nowadays you have new people, kind of mostly new people, calling the shots in that regard. And maybe the priority has shifted and we're a little bit off track.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, it's worrisome.
In my career of infrastructure. So one of the things that's really, when talk to your governing bodies, you have this conversation of, look, your local governments, your staff engineers and consultants do a lot of care in describing and taking care of and describing the condition of the infrastructure to their jurisdictions. Okay, their representatives, and the message often gets lost, in my experience, is that, did you know it costs twice as much to maintain an infrastructure at a D level than to maintain an infrastructure at a B level? So wow. if I go to the jurisdictions, I go, look, our infrastructure is at D, it's going to cost $20 million a year to maintain it and keep it useful. But if I went to that jurisdiction, I said I was a B level, it would cost half that much.
Okay.
And that's where I get nervous about this grading system, because some of us go, yeah, it's fine. It's C, D, it's fine. No, it's not. It's costing you twice as much as a taxpayer to keep it useful.
Right. That's interesting, because so many people don't even know that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just use our infrastructure. We just expect it to be there, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
We were born into it. We don't think about it. We're not educated on how that works. And then we bitch and moan when we have to pay more taxes and our buildings are falling down.
Our roads and our bridges, our water systems is super scary. Our water and sewer systems. Yeah.
Looking for a new opportunity? Interested in being part of an expanding network of independent engineers and architects who are thinking differently? Level Design Partners is on a mission to create prosperity for design professionals, the industry, and the world, using innovative business systems and a culture of collaboration. We believe that traditional education and firm structures want you to be a cog in their machine, depriving you of key skills needed to thrive, thus commoditizing an entire industry in the process. Gain access to skills, tools, and systems by partnering with Level Design Partners. Learn more at leveldesignpartners.com.
Okay. So clearly it's a problem and it's kind of trending downwards.
And whose problem is it?
That's a great question.
Whose problem is it? I mean, I think that's huge. We've gotten this weird dynamic where as a citizen, we drive around and there's that city truck or that state truck and we go, this is their problem.
Right.
It's their fault.
Yeah.
Right. It's that government employees. It's them. It's their problem. They got to fix it.
There's a lot of separation in responsibility and ownership.
Guess whose problem it is?
It's ours.
It's a taxpayer. Yeah.
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 Absolutely. So it's a very complex problem with probably a complex solution, unfortunately. But how do you even begin to try to solve that and try to just change the direction of trending?
I hope this podcast starts to gain momentum and we can start talking about that this is not this is something to be proud of, like you're proud of your vehicle or you're proud of your home or your personal asset. That the American infrastructure is ours also. And to be proud of it and go, you know what, I'm going to vote for that increase. But here's the thing. A tax for infrastructure does not leave the country. It creates jobs and commerce and economy at home. Mm-hmm. It's not a loss. If I put $1 into infrastructure as a taxpayer, it regenerates, and there's our economists that will argue this. They're always talking about this. But there's as much as that dollar will circulate within the economy 2 and 3 times. You hired a contractor to improve a road. That contractor goes to lunch, spends that dollar at a local restaurant, buys a new tool, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's not lost economy. So if we can talk about, or we can shift, hey, look, this dollar for this infrastructure, that comes right back to me.
Yeah.
Comes right back to me.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah. I don't really think, we don't think like that. You know,
Right.
we kind of just, we're in our own
Right.
bubble.
Right.
And a lot of us are consumers, and we just have our needs and our wants and go about our work, and we pay our taxes, and we don't really think about, I mean, since I've been working, with you and with Level, it's really opened up my eyes to just being curious about how things work. Like how my water gets from wherever it started years and years and years ago, going through the system many times, and now ending back up to me, hopefully in a semi-drinkable, showerable state. And it's complex.
Miles, if we don't take care here, if we don't take care and we continue to go down this trend, there will come a day when you're not going to be sure about that water coming out of the tap.
I feel like that's already here. You're in Colorado. I think that's probably pretty high quality there compared to a lot of other places. But I mean, at least in my, kind of social group, no one really drinks tap anymore. I mean, that used to be normal, drinking tap. Now there's been proven to be, very unlikable things in our tap water. So now it's like, all right, we got to pay extra for this fancy spring water or filtered.
Oh, it's fascinating. Now think about the damage to the environment because we're not confident about our tap water because we're not spending infrastructure, taxpayer monies on taking care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're buying bottled water with a petroleum product. Well, wait a minute. What are we really doing?
Yeah. Making it worse.
Making it worse, yeah.
So it sounds like, I mean, obviously education is a big part of the solution, which is, that's a slow process, but it needs to be done.
How does it feel? And how do we create a shift such that when there's a construction zone and you're driving that construction zone and you're being delayed, that you roll down your window instead of flipping the guy off, you go, "Thanks, man." Here's a bag of chips, man. Dude, you're awesome. Thanks for taking care of my infrastructure.
That is interesting. That's such a great way to think about it.
That's the shift we got to get to. Is that it's like, wow, it's a journey, but
yeah,
it's true.
Wow. Yeah.
Thanks for preserving my affordable goods. Thanks for helping me with my affordable food. Thanks for creating more jobs.
Yeah. We are definitely off track in our thinking as a nation. And education will help, but I do also think it's just, the people at the top or whatever also need to kind of take some leadership in this. I just feel like they're not really doing their part.
Here's the shocker: they are
okay,
but they're the staffs and the government employees I found are very hardworking, and are so devoted to this issue. They're as hard. I mean, I've been in public and private. I would say they're harder workers than private, but because they are looked upon as a burden to the taxpayer, they are categorized as all kinds of bad things when they're not. Now, I would say you can look at the leadership. How is managers, city and government managers motivating our employees or not motivating those employees to take risks? That's a place to look at. That's actually an issue, I think. But the actual workers, they're just in an environment where they're actually get in trouble for working hard,
Yeah.
causing change. But they're
Man,
good people.
You've really got me thinking, because I do marketing. I'm in the marketing world, and nowadays there's a huge obsession around content and social media and being an influencer and YouTube and building an audience and having this incredible influence. But I think so much of it is wasted on things that don't matter, and just conveniences and being comfortable and having fun. Like, all that stuff is great, but we've been afforded those privileges because of what's been done in the past, and I feel like we're kind of losing our gratitude for that and letting it slip away, where those levers could be pulled for good and for educating so many people. Like, I hope there's a near future, and I hope we're part of it. We will be part of it in, having some kid go viral for talking about this stuff in a creative way and bringing the education to the youth, but also just the public in general. I feel like that. I'm hopeful that will happen. It just needs to happen soon.
Yeah, because we're at a D.
Yeah, we're at a D. That's not good. I don't feel proud about that.
It's yours, Miles. It's yours. I mean, I'm getting older, but you own that. You own that bad boy.
Yeah. Damn. All right. Well, so we've laid out the problem. It's a big problem. We kind of talked about the solution. We'll dive into some more solutions and more angles of this, obviously, as we move forward.
Sure.
I do want to make sure that we kind of started and then we got into the topic of today. But historically, we're in the 30s and we're looking back at how we got here, because it's been a journey and we still have a ways to go to get to today, which we will eventually. But, in the 30s, I mean, just doing a little research. 1630s, yes. 1630s.
We're in 1630s, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I see that's different from the previous decade was an advancement in understanding materials and physics. So scientific discovery kind of came through, which indirectly influenced architecture and engineering through improved understanding of materials and physics. You also had the trade routes continuing to expand. Global trade networks became more complex, and the economic growth had a direct impact on construction of trade-related infrastructure like ports and marketplaces.
Imagine coming over during this time and a few decades before, but imagine now you have scientists and metallurgists coming from Europe, and they're coming and they're seeing different chemistry, different resources, different coke for making steel. They're starting to mine for making steel here and making product here. So imagine that metallurgist trying to figure out, this is different. There's different chemistry here in the iron ore and the coke. and that's what's happening at this point in time. You literally have metallurgists and scientists going, this is a different resource, and what can we do with it?
Yeah. Wow.
This is 200 years before the industrial age, but you still need steel because you have these old ships. You're still trying to bind wood timbers, build carts, etc., and tools, right?
Right.
So that's what they're working on.
It's so fascinating to think how much things have changed, and relatively quickly.
I mean, how do you make a clay brick for a road in these new urban areas you're starting to create? You're going to have paver roads. Well, wait a minute. You just don't order it online. You got to go find a local quarry with clay and try to figure out, how do I kiln it? What does it look like? Is it durable? Right?
Yeah. How do you transport it efficiently so that you can...
That's what's going on in 1630.
Wow.
How do I make a brick for a underground sewer to build a brick sewer? How do I build a paver? How do I build a brick for my, new house?
Right. Yeah. It sounded like that really started to lay the groundwork, no pun intended, for, at least like the first version of what we see today. Obviously, they had been doing this. A lot of this was new in the U.S., I believe.
Yep.
We're not even there yet.
No, you're actually just starting to get talent. It's like, okay, the Americas are just now safe enough to start actually being able to survive. The colonies are starting to get to a position where they're actually survivable. So you can start bringing over this European talent.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting time.
Yeah, super interesting. And also, it is history, so a little boring. But
wait. Let's imagine this. You're building. You just platted Philadelphia. So you were. I think Santa Fe was the first city. Quebec. I think Jamestown. New York is the next decade. Gets purchased. So New York isn't even that big of a place yet. But I think right around here, Philly gets platted. Lots are created to buy a parcel. Where do you put it? You need water and you need a place to get rid of the sewer. Where do you put your new city?
Next to a river?
Next to a river. And your roads follow the river.
I see.
How many cities have you drove in America where you have these roads by the river, and then all of a sudden time goes by, and then you do this grid system, and where the new grid system intersects the old river system, the roads are all screwy.
That's so true. I'm sifting through all the places I've been, and all the cities. There's almost always some major body of water, river. And then, there's certain areas that are clearly way older and original and kind of wonky. That's fascinating.
Yep. All over the world, really. But I drive the cities and go, this is Old Town.
Yeah, engineers see things just completely differently when they walk through the world. I mean, I've been with you and you've walked into certain buildings and you're just kind of looking around like, this place isn't headed in the right direction. Or you're fascinated by a beam or something interesting. Yeah. So it makes me appreciate it more.
I was an engineer in a city in the Midwest on a major river, and I was a city engineer there, or a senior project engineer. And I was in the old building by the river, maybe 300 yards from the river. And I had to go in the basement because the sidewalk was collapsing. And I was in there and I was like, what is this? And it was the original front door to this building was 12 feet below the road. So the original entrance to these buildings were 12 feet below grade.
Of all the levels of just adding materials, or
I went back to my boss and I said, what's the story here? Why are all the original storefronts below the street? He's like, well, originally when the town was built, the bridge was actually floating on the river level. So all the buildings near the river followed the grade going right down to water level.
I see.
And then when we built a bridge, it had to be high enough for boats to go under it. So the bridge went up 40, 50 feet. Now the road had to rise 50 feet. And all the old storefronts got buried.
So just because you had to raise the bridge for the boats, you also had to raise
The road.
a significant amount of
Yeah.
road. I mean, you couldn't you couldn't just do it in one little area. You kind of had to like spread that out.
Right.
Wow.
So all the storefronts of the original Old Town for almost 1,000 feet were buried.
That's wild.
Super
That's kind of eerie.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Damn. Yeah. To try to think about like all the different versions of that have happened across the world really is, I mean, geez, it's unfathomable.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right. So next time we'll move into the 40s and we will continue this conversation from a different angle. Really want to use this opportunity every time we sit down with just you and I or a guest, which we will start to have guests on every other episode, to explore these problems, try to ask the right questions, talk about potential solutions, kind of flip the way we're thinking right now on its head, because clearly it's in a lot of ways it's not working, and explore new innovative thinkings and technologies and, you know, how to do it as a community, as a collaboration.
Perfect. Sounds good. What we're going to find here is business starts emerging around infrastructure, mid-1600s.
Got it.
That philosophy still remains today. So
Yeah. Okay. Yep. All right, Scott. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Miles.
Thanks for listening. If you found value in this episode, support us by sharing it with someone or leaving a review. In upcoming episodes, we'll discuss the realities of the industry today and what the future may look like. It's our belief that positive changes for architects and engineers is not the obligation of the industry, but rather a choice you make to reimagine how we work together. We invite you to join us in creating a world in which design professionals thrive. Learn about our mission and get involved by following us wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribing to our newsletter at leveldesignpartners.com.